Soundstripe.
Episode of Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast where if you're like us and you miss the days of movie stores and packed movie theaters, then this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Caleb Suggs, joined me by my co-host, Dakota Lowry.
What's up, guys?
And Ernie Ferguson.
And like that, he's gone.
I know I said this last episode, but I still just want to be there when you're watching this and trying to decide what quote you're going to use.
Let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I have 5 quotes, and then there's quotes that I'm not allowed to say either. I think I even texted you one. And I'm like, I can't say that.
I'm surprised you were able to find 5 in this movie that you could say on the podcast.
I was really thinking about what you were going to say the whole time I was watching this.
The one that I wanted to do, but I didn't know. One problem with the quotes is I don't want to get one that's too long. But was how do you shoot the devil in the back? And what if you miss? That was the one that I was leaning towards. But I was like, that may be leaning towards a little long, so I just went with the most iconic quote which I try to avoid using the most iconic quote just because I want to throw something else out there.
Sometimes the most iconic quote though is just the one you got to use, right?
That is true.
Yes.
Iconic.
So The Usual Suspects, 1995. That's the movie we're doing this week. It was an Ernie Ferguson choice. Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure people know that if they haven't seen it, start watching it because you will start hearing F-bombs fly about every other.
Yes.
98.
Which
98 specifically.
Did you count them?
Again?
No, I didn't count it. I Googled it.
Which, I mean, you're also talking the era of Quentin Tarantino movies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is I think 3 years after Reservoir Dogs and the year after Pulp Fiction. So you can definitely see the Quentin Tarantino fingerprints on this movie.
Yeah, it was just it was funny. Sure. Because we were sitting in, it was, me and my wife are having to live with my parents right now as we get ready for our new house. And we were all sitting in the living room late Friday night, I guess. And nobody really watching anything. So I was like, hey, let's watch this because I got to watch it for the podcast. And then 5 minutes in, it's like F-bomb every other word. When you're sitting there watching it with your family, it's like, if I was watching it by myself, it wouldn't do anything. But watching it with your family, it's kind of awkward. You're all just kind of looking around I'm like, I already picked this.
Which in the 80s and the 90s movies, I mean, we talked about Beverly Hills Cop. I mean, that was 84 or something like that. And even in some of the watching the Goonies back again one time, and I was like, man, I didn't realize there's that much language in that. So that's one of those things where, unfortunately, that's the way that movies are made unless you're watching Disney movies. But then you have to watch out for other things that are put in there by the animators.
Funny story about Mermaid. Quick little sidebar, but funny story about the Goonies. My first job out of high school, the summer after I graduated, was working at it's basically a daycare, but they called it summer camp because it was 5 through 12-year-olds. But they told me, they were like, hey, just grab a bunch of movies that we could watch for quiet time, they called it, or whatever. So I'm just looking for DVDs, that I think they were semi-kid movies or kid movies, because we had older kids too. And I grabbed Goonies because I think I've watched it once a long time ago. I remember nothing about it. I just saw it there. And I'm like, okay, I'll just grab it. And I brought it and they were like, we can't show them this. I was just like, I don't remember nothing about it. But glad you caught that or I would have played it.
Yeah.
So speaking of this movie with all the actors in it, and I'm going to say this beforehand. When I was sitting here watching this movie, Kevin Spacey was the only actor I got correct. when it came to other films, because I was watching this and I was like, oh hey, that's Mark Ruffalo. That was not Mark Ruffalo. Oh hey, that's the guy from Home Alone. That's not the guy from Home Alone. Oh
Who
hey
did you
man,
think? Wait.
I know who he's thinking. I
Did you
can't
think
tell you.
absolutely.
Keaton? Did you think
No,
Keaton
Will,
was Mark?
no. Hot Pink.
no,
Kevin
yeah,
Pollak. He thought it was
Oh.
Joe Pesci.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can.
no. Who did you think was Mark Ruffalo?
Oh,
The investigator, the guy who's
oh,
interrogating.
Chaz Palminteri.
Yeah, he favors him later on in the movie, but
No, I get
100%,
I get Kevin
100%.
Pollak.
No, Keaton absolutely looks like Willem Dafoe. Okay,
What?
I'm telling you, man.
Do you
I
know
might have
who
just been
William
tired.
Dafoe is?
Yes,
Will,
I know who he is.
Willem Dafoe has a distinct look. That man is ugly and still makes money. He's like Willie McGee ugly. He's I don't know. Gabriel Byrne and Willem Dafoe. I don't know. That's a stretch there.
You should never go on a game show.
I don't know.
You should never go on a game show called "Who's That Actor?" because you would fail miserably.
See, this is the argument. This is like the beginning of a movie with me and my wife, where we argue about who the actor actually is, and 9 times out of 10, as you can tell, I'm wrong.
Gabriel picture Gabriel Byrne comes out. That's William Dafoe right there. It looks just
The
like
book,
him.
they favor. Okay, if you Google them and put a picture right beside each other, they favor.
He was the Green Goblin in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Anyways, the Usual Suspects, 1995 crime thriller film, directed by Bryan Singer and written by Christopher McQuarrie. It stars Stephen Baldwin, Gabriel Byrne, Benicio del Toro, Kevin Pollak, Chaz Palminteri, Pete. What is with these names? Pete Postlethwaite,
Yeah.
and Kevin Spacey. It debuted on August 6, 1995 in the United States, and it grossed $67 million on a budget of just $6 million, which is impressive. Like we said before, Ernie Ferguson pick. Why'd you kind of decide on this one?
I distinctly remember watching this in the movies, because there was a big push, and I can remember the commercials of who is Kaiser Sose, and then the poster of the lineup. It was just one of those things.
No.
And like I said, at that time period, Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction really kind of, is one of those things where they are movies where they have, I know those actors. I don't necessarily know who they are, but I know those actors. I mean, like Gabriel Byrne, people have seen him, and Chaz Palminteri. I can't remember. There's a movie, American Tail, I think it was, or something like it was something to that, or Bronx Tale. That's what it is, Bronx Tale. He was really famous. So Chaz Palminteri is the one that really kind of led to this movie being made. But I can remember watching this and just going, man, I was blown away. Not only by the story, which again, pre-internet time, the twist at the end, the story, but also just, I don't know, some of the, and I'm not a cinemaphile, but the beautiful pictures in the movie, like the opening scenes, just whatever after Kaiser Sose shoots Keaton, and then it just goes to the box of stuff that's there that Verbal is supposed to be behind, and then later on they show that I think 2 or 3 more times.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. And to me, it really stuck out that for someone who is not into the how do we make cinema, it was a cinematic movie to me, not just Beverly Hills Cop where it was funny type of thing.
Sorry, I was looking up here at the Wikipedia page, and it says Usual Suspects, not to be confused with the Usual Suspects gang, and I was like, what's that? That's an interesting sidebar.
I'm afraid I don't want to click on that. I don't want to know what that is.
Some kind of rapper, Irish Cypriot rapper. I don't know what that means. There's a block though here for his attempted murder trial.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm looking at there.
Interesting. Wow. But yeah, Usual Suspects. The plot follows the interrogation of Roger Verbal Kent, a small-time con man who is one of only 2 survivors of a massacre and fire on a ship dock at the port of Los Angeles. Through flashback and narration, Kent tells an interrogator a convoluted story of events that led him and his criminal companions to the boat and a mysterious crime lord known as Kaiser Sose who controlled him. So this is one of the movies, like, we've done some movies so far that I haven't, like, never sat down and just watched all the way through, but I've seen several parts, pieces of them. I knew a lot about the movie, even though I may have not have sat down and literally watched all the way through. I knew absolutely nothing about this movie. I'd never heard of it, never seen it, knew nothing about it. But I was surprised as I was watching it. There were things, references in other things I've seen, TV shows and stuff, that I was like, oh, that's from that. Like, I know, Ernie, I mentioned Psych. You know, it's a TV show that I like. You know, they mentioned Kaiser Sose in that one episode. I hate that I'm about to bring up this movie because it's so stupid and bad, but Scary Movie. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yeah.
But at the end, when Doofy is walking and then he suddenly, you know, he's the mentally handicapped guy and he's walking funny and suddenly he's walking normal. So that's from this movie. Didn't know that was a thing.
Yep.
So I was surprised as we were going through this to see there was just a lot of stuff that I saw that I realized, oh, that's from this movie. So, and it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I don't know about Dakota, but
I really enjoyed it. I think my big thoughts during this opening scene was like, this is your typical Kevin Spacey, like, criminal crime boss type of movie, you know, because I'd seen him in a couple of other movies like LA Suspects and most recently Baby Driver, where he plays a very similar type of character. And then I got to watch the movie and I was like, well, no, maybe he didn't. Maybe he's not the crime boss and all of this. And, you know, the movie plays out as it does. But I think Kevin Spacey did a great job in this movie. Honestly,
he did win the Academy Award for supporting actor for Usual Suspects. So, and this is also the same year I think Seven came out too. So here's the interesting thing about both those movies. When you look at the billing on the posters or whatever, he is arguably the main character, but he's listed 6th. I mean, the 6th actor listed, and that's one of those kind of gotcha type of things also. And in 7, he's not even listed. So again, it's one of those things where, you know, it's very interesting what some people do on little things like that, because through the whole entire movie, I know when I first watched it, I thought it was Keaton. There was one part in time where I thought maybe Hockney. I never thought that Kent was, that Verbal was going to be Kaiser Sose. But I know Dakota. I'm not Dakota. I know you, Caleb, said there are some things that kind of gave it away. My second time watching it, the very opening scene, knowing Kevin Spacey's voice, you know, I was like, oh, okay, it is Kevin Spacey. But before then, just watching it the first time in the movie theater, not knowing who that's the first time I've ever seen Kevin Spacey in anything. And it just, I mean, it was like, whoa, there you go. I'm talking about I was truly floored by it. And even now, knowing what's coming up, I mean, the beginning of this movie and the end of this movie, I'm just like, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
So anybody that's listening, oh crap, I just did that thing again. My wife keeps telling me I do. But anyways, I wanted to.
Now you're going to tell me what that is. What do you do?
I don't know. That like thing I do with, So
I stutter, so I mean, go ahead, go with it.
I wanted to for anybody listening to give like spoiler alert if you haven't seen this movie to go watch it before we told people who Kaiser Sose is, but already just
it's a 20-year-old movie.
That's exactly my.
That's 30.
Okay,
that's 30-year-old movie.
It's not like we're doing Deadpool and Wolverine right now.
Okay, but like I think this is a movie I had never seen it. Dakota had never seen it. I was just gonna say if you haven't seen it, pause this podcast, go watch it. Then
okay, so what we need to do is after the introductions, that's the very first thing that you need to say, because if people aren't smart enough, sorry if I'm insulting any of y'all that are listening, if you're not smart enough to know that we're about to talk about the movie, even plot points, then you need help.
Well, I think we're on episode 5 now.
Well, I was gonna. It's not really. Yes, we're gonna talk about the movie, but people might not know that there's a big, reveal at the end. This is one of those type movies.
I did tell Kamei that before she listened to this podcast, she needed to go watch the movie.
So, anyways, yes, Kevin Spacey, Kaiser Sose. And I correctly predicted that. You can ask my father, Ernie.
Yeah, I believe you. I mean, it's one of those things. Going again. I don't know if you knew there was a twist going into it. I know I said watch it all the way to the end, so I
I
probably
had
gave
no
that
clue.
away.
Yeah, you
But
pretty much gave it away. You were like, don't read anything about it. Watch it.
but I mean,
before
and I
like,
apologize for
okay.
that. But I'm like, but I mean, that's like when like people with Blair Witch Project. People didn't know what was
Well,
real,
I
what
mean,
wasn't real.
it didn't take you long to figure out. Hey, this is going to be about figuring out who Kaiser Sose is.
Yeah.
So
So here is a philosophical question for you both about this movie. There are two not questionable people, not good people, and that's Kevin Spacey and then Bryan Singer. They are both. I mean, I think Spacey was had jail time or something like that for sexual misconducts, and Singer probably has the same thing. So, is it possible to watch him? I don't know if y'all knew that going into this movie, watching this, but
Yeah,
is it
I did.
possible to watch art and separate it from the artist?
yeah, I think so.
That's
I think it is.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where I've people. I'm not a deep thinker, so so it's not a problem for me to watch something like this. But I know there's some people that really have issues with being able to watch it, especially since evidently Kevin Spacey got it on with Bryan Singer's boyfriend at the time during this movie, and it caused issues. So uh-oh. But that's how it is. But again, that's one of those things. You look at movies with like I'm not a Woody Allen person, but people always talk about how great Woody Allen movies are, but he's ain't a great person either. So, but that's just my.
Well, it's just I don't care about whether it be actors or music or I don't care about the people like what they do in their personal life, like as far as like their politics and their religious beliefs. So I mean, I don't, you know, I mean, I'll still watch the movie because there's other actors in it,
Yeah.
and
I think it's kind of a looking back at it, like people are still going to talk about it,
Yeah.
regardless if it's like I mean, obviously here we are, 29 years later, almost to the day that this movie came out, and we're sitting here making a podcast about it. I mean, you think about like Christopher Columbus and everything that he did, but his name is still brought up in that.
Yeah.
And here's from what it is, and so that's why I don't really have an issue with doing stuff because I mean it's still there. There's no reason not to appreciate that, no matter how bad of a person Kevin Spacey or Bryan Singer were, or whatever it was that they did. Like it's you could still appreciate how good somebody is at something, even if they are a bad person.
Yeah.
well, get on to the movie. As we're almost 20 minutes in, career criminal Dean Keaton lies badly wounded on a ship docked in San Pedro Bay. He is confronted by a mysterious figure he calls Kaiser, who shoots him dead and sets fire to the ship. The next day, the police recover 27 bodies and only two survivors: Arkosh Kovash, a Hungarian mobster hospitalized with severe burns, and Roger Verbal Kent, a physically disabled con artist. U.S. Customs agent Dave Kujan flies to Los Angeles from New York City to interrogate Verbal. The men are left alone in a borrowed office belonging to LAPD Police Sergeant Jeff Rabin, while FBI agent Jack Bayer visits a hospitalized Kovacs. The events that led Keaton, Verbal, and their associates onto the ship are then described by Verbal via flashback. Um, so it's kind of tough because the next paragraph is really the beginning of the movie. Well, you have the very beginning of the movie where Ernie, I'll let you take it. You just go.
Well, I mean, the beginning of the movie sets up almost the end of the movie. It is the crux of the whole entire movie. It shows Kaiser Sose talking to Keaton, and this is also when I watched the movie a little bit later. The one thing that led me to the possibility of Kaiser Sose being Hockney was the way Kaiser Sose held the gun sideways, because there was a scene later on where Hockney held the gun sideways too, and I was like, no, that ain't right. But that was the one time that I kind of thought about that. But again, you have the ship. You don't know why they're on the ship. You don't know why Dean Keaton is on the floor, on the ship, just sitting there waiting to be shot. But you come at that, then you see Kaiser Soze throw that cigarette down, blows up the ship, and then I think the next thing they see is the bay with the smoke coming up. You see the ship that burned, but then you see the dead body float, or I don't know if that was the dead body or if that was the Hungarian they found in the water that was floating there. So, but then you also get introduced to Kuyan, and Kuyan is he's the big name. That is Chaz Palminteri, and he's the one that's like you said, it should have tipped it away when he's smarter than everybody else. But that's your big hitter, and he comes in, and that's where we kind of step up in the Dean Keaton part. Let's go into the next part because I have an issue with Dean Keaton anyways in this movie, period.
So Kuyan, I said Kujan, it's fine. Yeah, before going to the next podcast though, I do want to say I like movies or TV shows or episodes that do this kind of stuff where it's like you have something that kind of reveals some things and then you're like, oh, well, how did we get here? And then you go like flashbacks through it. I enjoy that. So right off the bat, I was like, "Oh yeah, I think this is maybe because we've seen this thing at the beginning, that's that you don't really understand what's going on, and there's a guy that you don't even know who it is, and so then now you go back 6 weeks earlier, and you're like, oh crap, so you're about to learn everything that happened. So I enjoyed that part of the movie. So
as a movie, I really like this movie, but as a 6-episode Netflix show. Man, I think this could have been even better. I mean, just because, like you said, you can go to the flashbacks, you can go to all this different times. I mean, I think it would have been a heck of a 6-episode series.
I think this would have been a great season of a show.
Yeah.
Where each individual crime that they committed being an individual episode, even if it was just a 4 or 5 part mini series. Each individual crime that they committed, maybe the first episode being this part that we're about to talk about where they're pulled in for this, the truck with the gun parts and everything. And, but in the next parts, them going to LA being the second episode, then, the emeralds being the part, all of this, I think it would have been great as a miniseries. Yeah.
When you read this next paragraph, let's stop before they go to California because there's a lot to unpack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm not gonna get on my soapbox about the amount of TV shows and series we have these days. So
yeah,
yeah, I get that.
So 6 weeks earlier in New York City, Keaton and Verbal are arrested alongside fellow criminals Michael McManus, Fred Fenster, and Todd Hockney, and placed in a police lineup as suspects in a truck hijacking that none of them admits to participating in. Believing the police were unfairly harassing them, McManus proposes they pull a heist to get revenge on the NYPD. Trying to go straight, Keaton initially refuses, but eventually agrees to help rob a jewel smuggler being escorted by corrupt cops, netting millions in emeralds and getting over 50 cops arrested after leaking their activities to the press. So yeah, we go back six weeks earlier. We meet, Keaton and Verbal and all the other ones in a great way. Just them being arrested, all individually arrested.
All different ways too.
My favorite one. Which one? McManus is the bald one, right?
That's Stephen Baldwin, yeah.
Yeah. So he was the one that was asleep, and they were like, "Don't you get?" He was the one. He was the one that's asleep, right? When they come in, and he's like, "Don't you guys sleep?"
Yeah.
I don't, that was my favorite one of them being arrested.
Well, this is where here's irony. What movie is this that we're doing? Number what? 5 or 6?
6, I think.
And who is the one actor that we've done 2 movies with? Kevin Pollak. And talk about 2 different ways to act. In A Few Good Men, Lieutenant Weinberg, and then you got him as Hockney, who, I mean, he was working on the car, and he didn't care if they were going to try to shoot him. He was just reaching for his rag, that type of stuff. I mean, that the worst one was Keaton getting arrested. I was like, you got to be kidding me! Come on now, that's boring, type of thing. But
yes, but that shows more of the other ones are like hardened criminals where he's kind of a guy that's trying to go straight. So him being arrested in a nice restaurant while he's trying to make some business deal, and but it also makes him seem like more of a leader than the other guys, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he's
more of the boss.
He's a former cop that was dirty, that was arrested. Now I'm trying to go clean. So if you got arrested in New York, why are you still in New York?
Yeah,
if you're a dirty cop in New York?
Because we have to make this movie, Ernie.
And then it will. One of the things that you're like, really, why couldn't they just cut this part? Like they arrest him, they take him out of the restaurant, and then his lawyer stops, waits, and then starts talking French to the investors. I'm like, you. I mean, just give me more Finster. Give me 10 more seconds of Finster than just because that didn't serve any purpose. Thematically, that she was just talking to the investors in French and stuff like that. Just, but it got us to the 1A scene, which is the lineup.
No, the lineup. I would say it really that whole scene really felt like an SNL skit where they were just like they put him in there and was just like, look, just be as funny as possible. Where you could see Keaton like trying to hold back his laughs and like Kevin Spacey's whole dialogue over this whole set, this whole section of of scenes. I think was great. And I really think that scene in the lineup really tied everything together. Made it. I mean, I was laughing at it, and I thought it was funny.
And this is kind of one of those movie magic type of things, but they had done this part over and over and over again. And McManus's part, he was getting tired, and so he just went full throttle. And that's one of the reasons why everybody was laughing was that. And then Benicio del Toro evidently had gas, and that was another reason why they were laughing. And Benicio del Toro was talking. They asked him about his accent, and he was like, "Well, I knew I was going to be the first one killed off." And said, and I had no other jobs other to be killed. So how am I going to be remembered? Also, I'm going to get this accent. And literally, like when everybody was saying, what are you saying? They didn't understand what he was saying, the actor. So he was doing his job. And that's one of those things, Finster, he's one of the, I remember Finster I flip you. I mean, I remember him. The side characters other than Keaton are all memorable.
Mm-hmm.
And so before we go to the I hate to bring up this movie again because I hate mentioning it because it's so stupid. But I know I told you where I thought that Spacey's character was going to be Soze. I told you that earlier, Ernie. But the first time that I actually thought that like Spacey was going to be more than he was when they show them walking down to the lineup and he's walking with that limp. Because immediately I thought, oh, is that where Scary Movie got that from? And then I thought, oh, so is this going to be where he's not actually got a limp? I hate how Scary Movie popped into my head because that movie's so stupid. I hate it. It popped in my head multiple times watching this movie. But yes, so I just had to.
But this is one of those things. Looking back on it, thinking about it, we see McManus get arrested, Keaton get arrested, Hockney get arrested, and Finster get arrested, and they just found Verbal. He just happened to be around there where they found him.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's one of those things. You look back, I'm like, oh my goodness, I see dead people. I should have seen that.
Yeah, I think the entire time there's this. There's more to meet the eye to Spacey. I mean, at this point, you don't even know who Kaiser Sose is, so it's not like you're thinking, oh yeah, he's Kaiser Sose. But I think just as soon as you meet him, you're like, okay, there's something here.
Yeah. And that's like I think I can't remember if it was in this. It's in one of the interrogation scenes where he's asking about Keaton, where Kujan, what's his other Kuyan's asking about Keaton and if he's alive or if he's actually dead. He said, "I want to make sure he's actually dead." And he looks at him and says, "No, I know he's dead. I watched him die." And it's like you're seeing that, and then later on in the movie, knowing that hey, he was the one that killed him. Like. Yeah. At first, like I didn't even think about it, it was just like, yeah, I watched him die, but now, like thinking back on it, after I've watched the movie, it's like, oh yeah, he's dead because you're the one who pulled the trigger, man.
So they go to California to fence the jewels through a man named Redfoot, who connects them with another jewel heist, but it goes badly and the contents are instead revealed to be China White, which is synthetic heroin. The men learn that the job was arranged by a lawyer named Kobayashi, who says he arranged for their arrest in New York, and that his employer, a mysterious Turkish crime lord Kaiser Sose, from whom each of the men has unwittingly stolen, has ordered them to raid a ship holding Argentinian drug dealers and destroy $91 million worth of cocaine being sold on board. The cash brought for the exchange will be their reward. So this is kind of a big deal. So you come to find out that these guys, it wasn't just chance that they all got arrested, and met and, joined up to be, make heists, that they were kind of brought together for a purpose. And they were all connected through this crime lord, Kaiser Sose. So right there, then again, you're like, okay, that's a pretty big reveal.
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things when they meet Kobe, well, first of all, casting possibility for Redfoot, somebody said they offered it to Johnny Cash. And I'm thinking, man, I'm like, I can go with that. If you give me a certain Johnny Cash, I'm all right with that, But I mean, but when Redfoot, when the actor who does Redfoot actually accidentally flicks the cigarette into McManus's face and really gets Stephen Baldwin mad, that's pretty good too. Yeah. So, and plus he does a good bad guy on the movie The Mask also. So
it's such a random casting decision.
It was.
Yeah,
but one thing that I thought was interesting, again, just watching it and listening to other people talk about this movie, was when they got the briefcase from Kobayashi and it had all those file folders on them. The order in which they got the file folders is the order in which they were killed.
Really?
So I didn't
pick up on that.
So Finster got his first, Hockney got his next, McManus, then Keaton, and then, of course, Kent. But I mean, Verbal didn't get killed, and so it was just one of those things. Again, looking back on, you're like, I love it when like Easter egg type of stuff that people do. I like that type of stuff that's good. But so I mean, the two different things. One, it may be corny, but I really like how they stole the emeralds from New York's finest taxi cab service.
Yeah.
Because you see, even Verbal in the back of the van is holding a gun, just pointing them at somebody. But also this kind of shows through this, and then also when McManus kills the guy in the parking garage, it shows Keaton can't be Kaiser Soze, or he would have blown the guy away right off the bat instead when he didn't give him the briefcase, if he truly was that,
Yeah, that's one of the notes that I have put down right here, is that like his hesitation to pull the trigger on it. And then once again, you see, Kevin Spacey standing in the background and having pulled the trigger, and it's like, I guess never want. I think I questioned more if Soze was ever real, rather than if he was any specific character. I questioned through the whole movie, like, is he actually, somebody who's real, or is it like Kevin Spacey said, is he just a fairy tale that's made up that people use to scare other people, like, or use to like pass the blame on, well, we were doing this job for Soze. I don't. It wasn't until after we got closer to the end of the movie that I was like, actually, Spacey might be Soze,
Well, it's actually in that scene where they're still in the, what they think is jewels, and it turns out to be heroin. When Spacey shoots him in the head, I mean, that kind of shows you that he's Soze, because there's multiple times, I think, later in the movie where Soze or kills people. It's Soze that kills him, even though you don't know who he is, and it's like that exact same, bullet straight in the middle of the forehead. Which I wrote down. When that happened, I was like, Kevin Spacey's character's got a pretty good shot on him.
So here kind of goes an overall question about the plot. You mentioned it, Dakota. Do we actually know that a true Kaiser Soze exists? Do we think that Kevin Spacey is that long-haired Hungarian guy or Turkish guy that shot his wife and his two kids in front of himself? Or because we already know that Verbal Kent's not a reliable narrator, because we don't know if half the stuff he said is actually true.
Yeah.
And so is it just, the dog agrees too. If, is it the boogeyman? Are they just making this Kaiser Sose character so much of a bad dude that maybe he doesn't really exist? Kobayashi doesn't really exist, because who knows what the lawyer's name, because it's not Kobayashi, because that's the name that was on the bottom of the coffee cup.
Yeah.
So, so that's one of those things, just kind of looking back on this, I'm like, well, man, is this? I mean, is Verbal Kent just a dude that's using this urban legend and just living under this urban legend, or is he truly like John Wick, the boogeyman, and he really is this way? Because I mean, to set up this, that's one of the here's the one of the weak spots, other than the lawyer. That's for me was Kaiser Sose is really interested in machine parts or truck parts. That really kind of
Yeah.
hurt him that much. But I overlooked that because I like the movie.
Well, during Kuyon's interrogation, he learns that there was no cocaine in the ship and Soze was seen on board. At the hospital, Bayer learns that Kovacs has seen Soze and has a sketch artist begin making a picture. Verbal then tells Kuyan a legend about Sose. He was a small-time drug runner who murdered his own family when they were being held hostage by Hungarian mobsters, then massacred the mobsters and their families before disappearing, and from then on conducted business only indirectly through underlings who are mostly unfamiliar with their true employer. Soze thus became a fearsome urban legend, a spook story that criminals tell their kids at night.
That
So,
should have been my quote.
yeah. Well, and then I was gonna say, Ernie, you just touched on a lot of this before we actually got to the paragraph, which is fine. I did want to add though that when you do movies or TV show episodes or whatever where you have an event and you have an event that you're leading to while you tell flashbacks. I mean, you have to balance the going from present to past very good. And I feel like they did that with the interrogation and then going through Kent telling all the stories. So that definitely made the movie go, in my opinion, because I think if you don't do that, it's gonna sink.
Yeah.
And the whole name of Kaiser Soze, you have the guy that's in bed that's yelling that name. You have Giancarlo Esposito's character. He's like, whoa, I need to get in touch with Kuyan. I need to get in touch with so and so or whatever, whoever. And they just start talking about, I mean, the whole entire name and this, and then you hear the story, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's gonna go save his family. He's gonna save his family and then but by killing all these other guys. Nope, kills his family, lets one guy go, and then I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna go run away. I'm gonna tell all these people that are in my gang, you better watch out for your parents. Better watch out. Your pizza delivery guy better watch out. The guy who cleans your pool, he better watch out because Kaiser Sose is coming to get you, type of thing. And but that quote, I mean, a spooky story that criminals tell their kids at night. That's awesome. That's a great quote too.
I'll tell you who I really felt bad for this entire movie was the burn victim in the bed. Because like the first off, I don't know of a hospital that's just going to let police come in and interrogate a guy like that this closely after after being tortured like that.
They made him put a cigar out though, so I mean that was good.
Hey, yeah, they gave him that. Let him walk around with their face mask out. But I was like, dude, this guy has got to be in like what was it, like over 50 or 60% of his body in burns, and this guy's got to be in excruciating pain.
Yeah,
laying here in his bed, and you've got 15 detectives and a sketch artist and everybody else in there, and a translator like yelling at you to give you information. And I'm like, dude, I just let him lay there and rest, man. Like,
I got burned in my freshman year of high school. I got burns on my hand, and because and I hope my friend is listening to this because it's his fault, and I will die on that hill. But we were in shop class, and he put a piece of metal he had welded next to pieces of welded metal. So I pick it up thinking it's unwelded metal, and it had been welded. So I got burns on my hand, and that crap hurt. And it was a slight burn. So I can't imagine having your whole body with that level of degree burns. And then people are trying to come talk to me. No, you can figure out the case by yourself. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I think the guy would still be in a coma. I mean, I just think that level of pain, dude just wouldn't be awake. He's going to be out. They're going to have him sedated for, 3 or 4 weeks until he's, better recovered.
I would hope so. If that was me, I would hope. But I did. So during the interrogation, so that when I texted Ernie Friday night, is that when I watched this?
I think Friday or Saturday.
And I texted you that I thought that Spacey was Soze. I told you one of the things that really tipped me off the first time was when Kuyan is talking to Kent, and he says, "What is it?" He says, "I'm smarter than
You're
you,"
stupid,
or
I'm smarter than you.
smarter than you, or whatever.
Yeah.
Immediately, that set off in my head. I'm like, okay, that's foreshadowing, and we're gonna come to find out he's not as smart as he thinks. So that was really the first tip, the major tip off to me that Spacey was Soze, or but that Spacey was gonna be a bigger, because a bigger part of the movie than what people thought.
And then he doubles down on that "you're stupid" statement to Verbal later in the movie too. During when he's telling him why it is Keaton, you're stupid and I'm smarter than you, and again doubles down on it, and like, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna read the next two paragraphs together. Concluding his story, Verbal reveals that Finster was killed after trying to flee. The men then threatened Kobayashi, only to accept the assignment when he threatened their loved ones. The men attacked the ship during the night, killing several Argentinian and Hungarian gangsters before discovering that there was no cocaine. An unseen assailant kills Hockney, McManus, Keaton, and a prisoner in one of the ship's cabin. The mysterious figure then set fire to the ship as Verbal looked on from a hiding place on the dock. So that's the end of Verbal's story. So then we go, Kuyan deduces that Keaton must be Soze, as the prisoner killed on the ship was Arturo Marquez, a smuggler who escaped prosecution by claiming that he could identify Soze. Marquez was represented by lawyer Eddie Finnerman, Keaton's girlfriend, who was recently murdered. Kuyan claims that the Argentinians took Marquez to sell him to Soze's Hungarian rivals. Keaton then used the assault so that he could kill Marquez personally and fake his own death. Verbal finally confesses that Keaton had been behind everything, but if he refuses to testify in court, Verbal's bail is posted and he is released. So, well, first off, they have the whole, it's a pretty decent little action going on the ship, for a $6 million budget crime, whodunit movie. I feel, that was pretty decent. And it's definitely interesting to see this ragtag group of 4, or technically 3, take out this whole boat full of gangsters.
McManus was a bad man.
Yeah.
His quote where he's, and I'm not going to say what he said.
That was the quote that I said to Caleb. I was like, too bad I can't use this quote.
Yeah, I heard it and I was like, oh man, like that was, I immediately got to thinking, was like, that was the guy who killed Kennedy, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. If you're looking for it, it's the Lee Harvey Oswald quote in the movie.
I was like, dude, like that whole he sold that scene to me. I was like, man, this is great.
And that's why I think, I mean, I don't know if Stephen Baldwin just thought he needed to overact, but he did. But man, it worked. I enjoyed his part of it. And I enjoy it. And that at the same time, Hockney just walking around, shoots that one guy. He sets up the bomb. He's just walking calmly again, which is in his personality throughout the whole entire movie.
Yep.
And I guarantee you that once he saw that money in the back of the van before he got shot, he was gone. He was about to be gone. Everybody else, I don't care about y'all. He was about to get in that van and he was about to take off.
Oh
yeah. And another quote. Go ahead.
I think that scene right there where he was in the van, I think that's the scene that set me off to Kevin Spacey being Soze. I was like, so who had to kill him? Because it didn't show anybody who killed him. And I was like, well, Kevin Spacey's the only one who's not really there who could have done it,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where I started cluing into like where Kevin Spacey could be Soze.
Man, y'all are better than me. I'm not lying. I was hook, line, and sinker for Keaton. Especially when he started screaming, "There's no coke. There's no coke." I mean, that you talk about overacting when he was talking about how there's no cocaine on the boat. That's when McManus decided to bolt.
Okay, so that actually leads me to my next thing. So, it was about halfway through the movie where I actually asked my dad. I was like, Kevin Spacey is Soze in it. Of course, he didn't tell me, but so that was I thought. But as we get to and here's my thing: like when you have like a whodunit movie, you're gonna have hints and stuff that kind of lead you to the guy. For it to be successful, you have to kind of also just do things that kind of make you double think. Like, is it really him? And I thought that there was times as he's telling the story, because as he's telling the story, I'm starting to believe it. I'm like, okay, this is what really went down.
Yeah.
And then, so I remember thinking audibly as we're getting towards the end of this movie, like, okay, is it Keaton? Like, and then I was like, oh wait, is it the cop that's interrogating him? And so I'm starting to really second guess myself. So the movie did a really good job of that. So you said you're better than you said, Ernie. You said that we're better than you. I mean, I really, even though I guessed it halfway through the movie, I was really second guessing myself.
What really got me throughout this whole entire thing, though, is whenever Kuyan said that Edie Finneran was killed. I was like, oh, well, I mean, if she didn't know anything, there's no need to kill him unless, and that's why, again, it led me to Keaton, and I was just like, it only makes sense, so I was like, because again, I kept on going back to, he's a police officer, he's a former police officer, he was crooked, he would be the one that would set up all this type of stuff, McManus and Finster and Hockney wouldn't be living the way they were living if they were some, super duper kingpin. So, but again, the whole entire time until we get to a scene, I'll tell you where I was like, oh.
And see, that's where the scene in the interrogation when he's explaining all this to him about, like in this last paragraph that we read over, Kuyan is talking to him. He's like, hey, the Keaton's got to be Soze. Like, he really had me convincing this. And I'll tell you what really sold me on it was Kevin Spacey's facial expressions during this whole scene. Where at that point I was full of flop. I was like, man, he might not be him. Like, his facial expressions to me and his acting in that scene really sold me on the fact that he 100% believed that Keaton was Soze. And like especially when the whole like, hey, Eddie's dead, and he's like the bewilderment on his face, where he was like, there's no way that he would have Keaton would have, like, he loved her. There's no way he would have done that.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey's acting in that one scene right there convinced me wholeheartedly that Keaton was it, or that Keaton was Soze.
Yeah.
Like, I had inklings before where I was like, it could be Spacey, but then that scene happened, and I was like, I was like you, I was full on board with Keaton at this point.
And we talked about on one end of the spectrum the lineup scene and how it was just funny, just those guys let loose. But towards the end, the Kuyan and verbal interaction with each other, that was what got me. I love the whole entire interaction between Kent and Kuyan. Just, again, the absolute arrogance of Kuyan, and how, again, in hindsight, how Verbal was just, he's my friend, he wouldn't do that to me type of thing, and just how he felt sorry for you, Verbal. That's all he did. He felt sorry for you. Again, that was gold for me, that interaction between those two.
I did have one question. I probably should have mentioned this way before, but it just not popped in my head. Was there and did I just miss this, or was there prior relationship between Verbal and Keaton before they got arrested?
I think they said they knew of each other in prison, because I thought Keaton was the one that told them about Kent when they were in lockup, because they asked who's the Gimp or something like that, and I think that it was Keaton the one that told them about him. So I don't know, they weren't BFFs, but I think Keaton knew about him in prison.
But see, doesn't it though, when Kent is having to convince Keaton to do the job in the beginning with him with the emeralds, doesn't he say they're not going to let me in without you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that I think that kind of led me to believe that maybe they had done a job before or something like that.
Well, the whole scene in his apartment where it brought a very, I don't want to say BFFs like you said, Ernie, but more of a more than just we just met vibe. And more so than we knew of each other vibe. So I don't know if I just missed that. I was just curious.
Yeah, no, I think when they were in lockup together, they mentioned some sort of previous relationship. Like I said, I don't know if they're friends of friends or they knew each other, but they weren't BFFs. But they at least knew of each other from prison.
Yeah.
Well,
which makes me makes me wonder that they didn't actually see each other. I'm betting that people were passing Verbal's name around because why would Kaiser Sose be in jail for whatever I can't remember what he was arrested for. It wasn't something violent.
It was like fraud or something.
Yeah, something like that. So that's one of those things where I think again we're coming from an untrustworthy narrative again, where what Verbal Ken has told us we don't know.
Yeah.
Well, moments after Verbal's bail post, Kuyan realizes Verbal seemingly fabricated his entire story, improvising on the spot by piecing together details from random items in Rabin's cluttered office. Verbal walks outside, gradually losing his limp and flexing his supposedly disabled hand. As Kuyan pursues Verbal, a fax arrives at the police station with the artist's facial composite of Sosei. The picture resembles Verbal, revealing that he was Sosei the entire time. Sose enters a car driven by Kobayashi and leaves moments before Kuyan arrives on the scene. A voiceover from Sose is then heard from when he spoke to Kuyan earlier, saying the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist, and like that, he's gone. So there's a lot to unpack in this scene because it really shows you just how great and smart Verbal or Sose, as we now know, is, because first of all, being able to improvise an entire story like that off of stuff you see in Office is just brilliant. I mean, it may seem simple, but I feel like that would be incredibly hard because there was just things he did like the barbershop quartet and stuff like that he just
he did that twice because he tried to start it at the very beginning and then Kuyan shut him down, but yet he came back to it again too, which I thought was funny. Like Orca Fat, and there was the fat woman in the wanted poster.
I'll tell you what impressed me through the whole scene where he's sitting there like reading everything on the blackboard. I was like, dude, Kent must have some pretty good eyesight if he can read all this from across the room.
Exactly.
And then we find out. Oh, go ahead, Ernie.
I was just say one of the funny things about the facial composite, the drawing. I don't know if you've ever seen the YouTube video in Mobile of the drawing of the leprechaun that people supposedly saw, and they were waiting for the gold to come. They were waiting to catch the leprechaun in Mobile, Alabama, and there is somebody has a sketch drawing, and I swear it looks like the Verbal Kent with like a leprechaun hat on it. That's exactly what it looked like, and I was like, it's like, oh, come on now, I could draw a composite like that. I mean, that made me laugh. If you don't know what I'll find the YouTube video.
I just Googled it.
It doesn't it though?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I thought was funny about that.
I listen to a lot of or a few true crime podcasts and everything, and occasionally, when they're talking about, I think the big one that I really listened to was the Golden State Killer, and I was listening to. I don't remember what the podcast was, but anyways, they were doing a series on the Golden State Killer, and in the middle of them recording it, they actually caught the Golden State Killer, which is cool. But if you look at a lot of the composites that were drawn back in that day, a lot of them do look like that.
Yeah.
It's like a quick sitting in a room, a lot of them do look somewhat.
I mean, look who they were getting it from too. A burn victim who
exactly.
I mean,
through a translator.
That was a good drawing considering. I mean, who they had to talk to get there. I'm sure he didn't want to describe that he had like an Eddie Munster widow's peak or anything like that too. I mean,
I've always wondered how they do that. I don't think I could. Accurately. If you asked me someone, I'd be like, he had short hair and eyes. I think he had two of them.
Hey, some of them are pretty close, man. When you look up like the actual suspect who's arrested, and then some of the things. I remember that's one of the things that happened in the Golden State Killer case, which I know this is way off topic from what we're talking about.
We're not a true crime podcast, Dakota.
Sorry.
Do we ever stay on topic?
No, we don't. But yeah, when he was in Southern California doing some of his like killings and rapings and things like that, one of the sketches came out, and then he just like up and quit cold turkey and left. And a lot of people theorized is that, hey, the sketches got pretty close to what he actually looks like, and he got scared and had to move and quit doing it.
So is the Golden State Killer Kaiser Sose? Because Verbal Kent was in California when he got away. Just saying.
He was.
Gosh, this is just going to be like us figuring out Indiana Jones started World War II.
In my notes up here before I did everything, I wrote down the NYPD caused all of the crime they just committed.
Yep. They put these guys together.
They put these 5 guys in a room together, and then all of a sudden they started committing a bunch of crime together.
Before we go on to our rankings, though, I just I'm just trying to think if this was a real, like, if you were a real person trying to do a ruse like this, how hard would it be to accurately go about as a cripple without ever slipping up that much? I feel like that would be incredibly hard. Constantly having that walk and but I'm talking about, and then there was even the scene, I don't know if y'all remember, but when they're on the beach and they start burying it Fester or Fetner or whatever his name is, I forget.
Finster.
They start burying him and he falls down, kind of like you would expect someone with a disability like that. I just feel like if I was trying to keep that ruse up, I would slip at some point.
But I think that also goes to show how smart Verbal Kent is, how smart he actually is as Soze, that he's smart enough to keep up that ruse for that long, to do that. I mean, this is a year, months on end,
Yeah. To me, having something as big as that is probably easier to maintain than if you're trying to do little things.
Yeah.
Like trying to change your speech or something like that. I think, once you train yourself, your body or whatever, I think, it's big things, but now it also depends on how much Verbal Kent, quote unquote, is out in public too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just in the span of a movie, it doesn't, but I'm just thinking like in your everyday life, say someone just, throws something and it's coming at you, your reflex is going to be to put your hands up, right? And it's probably not going to, it's not going to look like you're crippled if you put your hands up. So I'm just saying little stuff. I feel like I'm talking about in real life. If you were trying to do this, something would happen that would make you have to reveal that you're not actually disabled like you claim you are. But
if you kind of watch the movie though, doesn't he kind of stay in spaces where he wouldn't be in this situation? I mean, think about when they, the Emerald scene, where the New York's finest taxi, he sits in the back seat of a van, or he sits in the back of a van. Think about when they're in the parking garage. He hides behind a car, does he not? Until the end where he shoots whatever the guy's name was, And even in this, he convinces Keaton so much of his innocence and of his gimp that, he tells him, "Hey, stay off the edge stay out here. Don't go on this boat at all."
Yeah.
and then go protect my girlfriend. He's like, "All right, I'll protect her. All right."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
which that goes back to, you had talked about when you knew it was Verbal Kent. To me, it was whenever Verbal was getting his stuff from the police before he left. That's where the gold watch and the gold the lighter was that I thought that I remembered from earlier in the scene that he had. And I was like, oh. And I was like, but that was also in the process, where they talk about the whole entire movie was, I don't know if the actors knew who Kaiser Soze was. Again, the original, I think it was supposed to be Keaton, but there was the director, I think, ended shooting 2 weeks earlier than he thought. And so they had to go back in editing and splice all these different quotes from previous in the movie to create this ending. And from what I gather, I mean, at the viewing of this movie, Gabriel Byrne was mad that he wasn't Kaiser Soze. So again, that's kind of a thing whenever you're tricking your actors too about who's going to do what and who's going to be what in the movie too.
Yeah, so that brings us to the end. Overall, like I said earlier before we started reviewing the movie, I really enjoyed it. So good call, Ernie. Can't wait to see what your next one is. I feel like
I'll go lowbrow next one.
You'll go what?
Lowbrow,
is that a movie or is that
something that lowbrow is like something that doesn't take a lot of brain power, something that like a Three Stooges movie or something like that.
Oh gosh. Please don't make me watch a Three Stooges movie.
No, we're not. No, not the Three Stooges movie. A type of Three Stooges.
Kamei was trying to get me to do Uncle Buck earlier.
Ooh,
Uncle what?
That's John Candy and anything is not bad.
That sounds like straight to video Forrest Gump.
Oh, no. Uncle Buck's pretty good. I remember watching it. I just don't remember what it's about.
It's Macaulay Culkin. Never mind. We'll talk about that later. But
yes,
it's a John Hughes movie. If that helps you any.
We'll get back on the movie. But yes, I'm dreading the day that Dakota picks Forrest Gump. I know it's coming, and I'm absolutely dreading it. Having to sit through and watch that movie again. But yes, overall, usual suspects. I thought it was a good movie. Dakota, what'd you think? You hadn't seen it before either, had you?
No, I hadn't seen it before this. I thought it was a great movie. I enjoyed everything from the beginning to the end. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a couple times where I was like the burn victim, that I was kind of questioning it. But overall, I thought it was a really great movie. Really great twist at the end. Really great, like everything about it. I thought it was an all around really good, well rounded movie.
He thought it was a really great movie. I guess my movie last week wasn't as up to par, but whatever. It's fine.
No, it wasn't. No joke. We were going to do this ourselves.
So I guess that goes to our rankings. So 1 through 10. I guess
somebody dealing cards. Is somebody shuffling cards?
I'm pulling out my sheet that has our new numbers on it that we came up with. But first we got to do the 1 through 10. I had to write the numbers on the back of a folded up roster I got.
Oh, also, if anybody listens, the typewriter effect would also be Caleb too. When
absolutely would be Caleb.
I was like, man, I didn't know anybody still used a typewriter.
Okay.
It is. Don't remember. It is a very pleasing sound, but it is a little loud.
I like it, guys. But not listening. If I'm doing it myself, it's like, man, that's gonna put me to sleep. I like it, but no.
I don't ever pay attention to it. Yeah, it's a gaming keyboard, guys. Okay, it's supposed to sound like that. I have a regular one too. I'm just too lazy.
Keyboard. My grandmother gave me it.
I'm too lazy to. I did get it for Christmas a couple years ago. I'm too lazy to plug the regular one up. I don't even think I have it here with me at my parents' house. I think it's in storage. So, but anyways, rankings 1 through 10. I guess I'll go first since this is Ernie's movie. It sounds like Dakota really enjoyed it, so I'm interested to see what his ranking is going to be. I really enjoyed it too. I love whodunit movies. I'm a really big fan of Scream. That's my favorite horror franchise, and I love going through that, trying to figure out who the killer is. Obviously, this is not a horror movie, but still trying to figure out who someone is. I mean, that's really fun. So I really enjoyed that. I would probably watch this again. Rating wise though, I'd probably give it a 7.5. I think it was a really solid movie.
Well, since this is my movie, I'll go last since that's what you did with.
Yeah, that's what I was going to let Dakota go next.
Man, I'm surprised you. I really enjoyed this movie. I think these type of movies are really kind of up my alley. Like A Few Good Men and this. Like this was something that I really enjoyed kind of watching the entire time. And I honestly was going to give it a pretty high rating. I honestly think I would give it a 9.
Good Lord.
Because it's good enough that I want to sit down and watch it again with my wife. It's one of those movies that I definitely want to watch the first time, kind of like a Now You See Me with like Woody Harrelson and all of them, where you sit down and you watch it the first time and you see the twist at the end, but then you're like, oh wow, I really want to go back and watch that movie a second time just so I can see all of the clues leading up to the big reveal, and see what did I miss out on? What's the thing that I'm, and like it's saying something for a movie to maybe want to watch it again immediately. Like I really want to sit down and make my wife watch this, within the next week, so that I can kind of go back and watch and see all those, pick up on those things again.
All right, Ernie, you got the floor.
For me, I liked it in the movie theater. I liked it for the twist in the movie theater. Now I like it just for the interactions of the Stephen Baldwins, of the Benicio del Toros, the Kevin Pollak characters. I really liked it, and I recommend it to anybody just because I think it's a good whodunit. I think again, it's in those whodunits, like you said, but it's also in an ensemble cast esque like Quentin Tarantino.
Mm-hmm.
I like it better than Pulp Fiction. I think it's a more solid story than Pulp Fiction. I really like it. If I can go, I'm gonna go because I know you like me doing weird numbers. I'm gonna go, which would be a 9.25, but I'll be 9.25. Uh, I really liked it, and I watch it anytime it's on TV. I'm sitting down and watching it, and I'm enjoying every ounce of it.
All right, so let's see. So wait, what did you rank it?
9.25.
So 9.25, 9, and a 7.5. That brings it out to an 8.58. So we'll go 8.6.
8.58.
So, Ernie, first off, where does that put us in the list of our movies that we've done so far?
8.58 ranks at number 2, behind A Few Good Men and a front of Raiders of Lost Ark, which I'm still trying to figure out how Raiders is that low. But
you weren't on that episode.
But I wasn't. Asterisk. I was not on the podcast then.
Yeah, I like the movie. I'm a little surprised it's rated that high, but again, I'm surprised, but I'm not upset. Oh, obviously I'm not upset about it, but I do like that we have differing opinions. So it's fun to have movies where we have a little bit of a different opinion as opposed to all ranking it basically the same.
So when we look at the Rotten Tomatoes real fast, Rotten Tomatoes, it was an 87 and 96 for the audience score, which ties Raiders of the ones that we've done. It and Raiders had the highest audience score.
Yeah. Gonna show you what I know. But so next we'll go to our grouping. Of course, if you've been listening, we have 5 groups. The highest is Blockbuster, then Popcorn Worthy, Cult Classic, Matinee Only, and then Straight to Video. In the past, we've been putting them into a group ourselves. We've decided to change that. We're going to let our ranking decide. So the way it'll go is if it's less than 5, it's Straight to Video. If it's 5 to 6.5, it's Matinee Only. 6.5 to 8 is Cult Classic, 8 to 9 is Popcorn Worthy, and 9 or higher is Blockbuster. And since it was an 8.6, that would put it Popcorn Worthy, right? Is that what I just said?
Yeah.
So that means obviously second tier of movie, Blockbuster is kind of the elite, everybody must see movie. Popcorn Worthy, I mean, it means it's a really good movie. And I think, I'm fine with that. Even though I rated it lower than an 8, I'm fine with it being a Popcorn Worthy movie. I don't have a problem with that. I'm
really going to be interested to see what's going to be the first movie that the three of us put over a 9, because I still don't think Raiders. Even if I would have joined it, I don't know if I would have bumped Raiders. My vote would have bumped Raiders over a 9. And the Usual Suspects, I didn't think it'd get this high, to be honest. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get. What gets our first 9?
You know what? Mm-hmm. Let's because we can do this. Let's just do this. Ernie, if you rated Raiders of the Lost Ark, what would you rate it?
Oh, off the top of my head, man, I didn't think about this. I'd probably say a 9.
All right. Well, if you average that out with what me and Dakota did, that would make it to an 8.5. So if you want to change that on the rankings, we can do that.
Okay, I'll put the 8.5.
And we'll just
and ironically, that still keeps it would put it 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say it would put it exactly where it was.
So it's interesting. That's the one thing I like about how this is fascinating, which we have different perspectives on these movies, and that's what makes movies awesome.
Well, yeah, and I was also going to say, like, obviously it landed in Popcorn Worthy, but it has a little bit of a cult classic feel to it, just because
100%.
The fact that, I mean, I see it as a great movie. Obviously, you guys really enjoyed it. That's why you rated it so high. So I think it is one of those movies where if you have the right person, it could be a 10 in somebody's eyes. But overall, I think where some cult classics to some people might be crappy, I think everybody would enjoy this movie. But to the right person, it could be a really high movie, and I think that's what we got here. So, all right, well, another episode down. Fun episode. Let's see. What are we doing next?
Well, are we doing your special?
Yes, Friday Night Lights. So we're just skipping. It would be technically Dakota's turn, but we're skipping.
Gee, thanks. So
because
I have to go to church once, and all of a sudden I can't pick a movie.
It's always Dakota's fault why we can't record on a certain day or something because he has.
It was not my fault this week.
Church or work or has to spend time with his wife. I don't know. It's always some lame excuse, but so because of that, we're skipping his turn. No, I'm just we will get to his turn, but we are going to go just because we're going to do Friday Night Lights, so 2004, the movie, not the TV show, obviously. But it always pains me to find out that more people don't realize it's a movie and not just a TV show. Especially,
it also pains me that people don't know it's a book.
Oh yeah, that too.
It is a book. I read the book. I actually read the book before I watched the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really looking forward to it. We're doing that because let's see, on the day it'll post, so August the 22nd. That's the day high school football starts. Obviously, I'm a sports writer, so I watched this before football. I've been every year. I think I've been doing that since high school. So I thought I'm going to make y'all watch it this year. But I do not think, as much as I love the movie, though, I do not think that will be the first movie that we all give over a 9. So, like you said, I'm pretty interested to see what that movie is going to be.
My issue will be living with historic inaccuracies. Since I was in Texas and in high school at that time.
Yeah, I'm really excited to review this episode just because you lived in Texas all through this time period, actually. Yeah. But you've also, played football, coached football there, so I'm really excited to ask you a lot of questions that some of them may not even be doing with the movie, but I'm just gonna be excited to ask you.
That's all right.
But
I like to talk.
yes, we were. But looking forward to that episode. Guys, anything you want to add?
Good show.
I'm good. I enjoyed it.
By the way, we need to figure out some way to close this out. Since I talk all the time, y'all gonna have to figure out a way so we can just wrap this up nice and find a good little catchphrase that we can close it out on.
Ernie, stop talking. That's the curtain.
There we go. Hey, that's perfect. But I'd have to actually listen to that. So, but yeah, that's perfect.
All right. Well, all right. Great episode. If anybody was listening to this and still listening to us 6 episodes in, we appreciate that. And I hope you join us for the next episode. Thank you.
Like and subscribe.
Yes, like and subscribe. Wait, can you like it on?
I'm old. I don't know.
I don't think you can like it on Apple.
Make it rate us 5
You can
stars.
like it on Apple Podcasts.
Yes.
Yeah. Leave a review and share with your friends. There you go.
Star only if you're going to give it 4 or stars or higher. Though.
Yeah, don't star if you're not going to below.
Yeah, leave a 5-star review.
Exactly.
I have a fragile ego, so make sure they're high.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.